Imagine standing on a quiet Hawaiian beach in December 1941, unaware that in 1 hour, your world...
It was a peaceful morning of crystal-clear skies, gentle tropical breezes, and quiet sleeping fields across Oahu. In the calm waters of Pearl Harbor, the heavy steel giants of the Pacific Fleet lay peacefully at anchor. To the sailors aboard, this sleepy Sunday was paradise, safely isolated from war by thousands of miles of ocean. But beyond the northern horizon, hidden by dark clouds and absolute radio silence, an enemy fleet was closing in. Within 90 minutes, this quiet tropical haven would transform into an apocalyptic landscape of fire, metal, and heavy smoke. This is not just a story of surprise. It is the chronicle of a fateful morning that changed everything.
This event shattered American isolationism, dragging a sleeping titan into the deadliest conflict in human history. To understand the shock of December 7th, we must first feel the absolute stillness of December 6th.
Oahu in late 1941 was a perfect picture of tranquility, with slow-moving classic cars and peaceful, sunlit streets.
The sweet scent of hibiscus and salty sea air drifted through the quiet, open-air barracks of Hickam Field. Sailors in clean uniforms spent their weekend playing baseball, writing letters home, and enjoying quiet, relaxed tavern nights. In the harbor, 8 massive battleships of the U.S. Navy were moored side by side near Ford Island.
They called this impressive line of steel Battleship Row, representing the ultimate symbol of American naval might.
To the service members aboard, these towering steel fortresses felt completely safe and absolutely impenetrable to any enemy. The vast Pacific was America's natural moat, and few believed any enemy would ever dare to cross it.
Yet beneath this peaceful surface, a quiet geopolitical tension was mounting rapidly behind closed doors in Washington.
Across the vast ocean, diplomatic gears were turning with terrifying speed toward an inevitable and historic collision. Oil embargoes, diplomatic deadlocks, and tense alliances placed the United States and Japan on a dangerous collision course. Oil embargoes, diplomatic deadlocks, and tense alliances placed the United States and Japan on a dangerous collision course.
War was something happening on the far-off streets of London or Russia, not in this peaceful tropical paradise.
The islands slept under a starry sky, deeply wrapped in a false but comforting sense of absolute security. On November 26th, a massive Japanese strike force slipped quietly out of a cold, fog-shrouded northern bay. 6 massive aircraft carriers and escort ships plunged into the rough, freezing waves of the storm-swept North Pacific. This was the Kido Butai Fleet, executing a bold plan crafted by Japan's naval command. Their route was highly dangerous, taking them through a desolate northern shipping lane notorious for violent storms. But the harsh weather was their greatest ally, shielding them from the eyes of any patrol planes.
For 10 long days, the entire naval fleet steamed eastward in absolute, unbroken radio silence.
In the red blackout lights, mechanics tuned engines and polished custom torpedoes modified for shallow harbor waters. Young pilots, the elite of the Navy, memorized wooden models showing the exact locations of every battleship.
They knew the risks. If spotted even a day early, their entire operation would become a tragedy.
Searchlights cut through the dark night over wet decks, highlighting the intense danger of sudden enemy detection. Yet, they pressed forward with fierce devotion, carrying the immense weight of their empire's destiny. As dawn broke on Sunday morning, a series of overlooked clues began to form a tragic picture.
At 3:42 a.m., a small naval minesweeper spotted a mysterious periscope just outside the harbor entrance.
Hours later, an American destroyer intercepted and sank a midget submarine, firing the first shots of today. But these urgent reports crawled slowly up the chain of command, delayed by weekend bureaucracy and disbelief. Meanwhile, at 7:02 a.m., two young radar operators stared in absolute disbelief at their glowing screen.
A massive green blip had appeared, indicating a formation of aircraft larger than anything ever recorded.
They immediately called the central control station, trying frantically to report the massive incoming fleet.
The lieutenant on duty, expecting a friendly flight of B-17 bombers, gave a calm, fatal answer.
He calmly told the worried radar operators not to worry about the massive incoming signal. The operators turned off their radar and left for breakfast, leaving the skies completely unguarded.
At exactly 7:48 a.m., the quiet Hawaiian morning was violently torn apart by screaming warplanes.
A deafening roar echoed across the valleys as nearly 200 Japanese planes swept over the hills. From his cockpit high above, Commander Mitsuo Fuchida looked down at the peaceful, unsuspecting target. The American warships lay in perfect, neat lines along Ford Island, completely stationary and utterly helpless. Within seconds, the air was filled with screaming dive bombers plunging rapidly toward the anchored ships. On board the battleships, unsuspecting sailors were finishing their Sunday breakfast or preparing for morning duties. Suddenly, the heavy steel decks beneath their feet shook violently with the impact of sudden explosions. Many sailors initially thought it was a surprise drill or a reckless pilot flying too low. Then, the sudden screams of panic began to spread rapidly across the burning steel decks. Japanese Zeros swept low over the airfields, strafing rows of tightly parked American fighter planes.
Within minutes, the Army Air Forces were heavily crippled before a single pilot could take off.
The morning skies over Oahu belonged entirely to the aggressive warplanes of the rising sun. On Battleship Row, the scene descended into a living hell of fire, burning oil, and screams. The USS Oklahoma was struck by multiple torpedoes, her thick steel side ripped open like paper.
Within 20 minutes, the giant battleship capsized, trapping hundreds of brave men inside her flooding hull. But the most catastrophic and tragic moment of the entire morning was still about to strike. An armor-piercing bomb struck the USS Arizona, piercing deep into her highly explosive forward powder magazine. The resulting cataclysmic explosion literally lifted the massive 30,000-ton battleship completely out of the water. A towering fireball shot 500 feet high, raining hot metal and burning oil across the harbor. The kinetic blast was so incredibly powerful that it blew out active fires on neighboring warships. In a tragic instant, over 1,100 brave men aboard the Arizona were lost forever.
Amidst the overwhelming chaos, incredible acts of selflessness and bravery began to emerge across the harbor. One courageous sailor defied every barrier, rescuing the wounded and fighting back as enemy aircraft filled the sky. Sailors jumped into the water, only to find the surface covered in a blazing sheet of oil. For those caught inside this terrifying inferno, survival became a matter of mere inches and seconds.
By 9 a.m., a second wave of Japanese planes arrived, heavily targeting the shipyards and dry docks.
The harbor was now covered in a dark, oily fog, so dense it completely blocked the sun. Sirens wailed across the island, punctuated by the frantic, heroic thump of American anti-aircraft guns fighting back. By 9:45 a.m., the terrifying sounds of engines faded, leaving a heavy and shocking silence. The Japanese planes returned to their carriers, leaving behind a scene of absolute, heartbreaking destruction.
The damage was staggering, marked by twisted metal debris and oil-covered papers washing up on the shore. 8 heavy battleships were severely damaged or sunk, creating a silent, burning graveyard of steel.
Over 300 aircraft were completely destroyed on the ground, leaving airfields completely desolate and quiet. Most tragically, over 2,400 Americans lost their lives, and another 1,000 were wounded. In the days that followed, terrified residents prepared for a full-scale Japanese invasion they feared was coming.
It's very important that we practice fitting these correctly. Pull the straps right here, over your head, and breathe normally.
The peaceful tropical paradise of Hawaii had instantly become an active, heavily fortified military zone. But the strategic planners of this sudden, devastating attack had made a critical, fatal miscalculation. They had completely missed the American aircraft carriers, which were safely out at sea during the strike. They also failed to destroy the harbor's vital fuel storage tanks and active repair facilities.
But their greatest and most dangerous error was psychological, uniting a divided nation with fierce anger.
Before December 7th, Americans were deeply divided and committed to staying completely out of global conflicts. The bombs at Pearl Harbor instantly evaporated that isolation, turning factories into roaring wartime production lines. The following day, a powerful address united the nation, turning tragedy into determination and resolve for war. The sleeping giant was awake, filled with a terrible, unstoppable resolve to win the war. Today, looking down into the quiet waters, you can still see the USS Arizona's rusted, ghostly hull. You will see tiny drops of oil still weeping from her tanks, rising like tears. It is a quiet, powerful reminder that this tragic history is never truly dead or forgotten. It is etched forever in the steel, the quiet water, and the modern world we share. To continue exploring the historical moments that shaped our modern world, please subscribe and click notification. Which historical event should we reconstruct next? Let us know your thoughts in comments below.